Welcome to Flesh and Pod, a flesh and blood podcast, breaking down weekly news and notes from the tournament scene, community drama, game strategy, and more. And now, here are your hosts, Darick and Logan.
Hello and welcome to episode 181 of Flesh and Pod. My name is Logan. I'm your host, and with me, as always, is I'm hoping like hell that you still are here to disappoint me, counting his charmings.
Yeah,
Darick Oswald. Darick, disappoint me, baby. You know I love when you do.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't go to an armory or anything, if that's what you're asking.
Of course you didn't. Why would you? You only podcast about this literal game every fucking week.
Look, man, I don't know what to tell you. All right. Last weekend was Mother's Day weekend, so any hope of me going to one of the weekend events was shot. And Wednesday, so the good news is, like, it's coming to an end, but we're at the point in the year where we have like a bunch of the kids' school stuff. So we so far last week, what did we have? We had Lego robotics. We had 2 like practice days because they're like big. It's not really like a meet because Monroe's still too young for that, but their like presentation end of the year celebration thing was the weekend. So we had that. Stark had his first school dance. Yeah, because it's his last year in middle school, and so you
got to get used to the awkwardness of dances.
Yeah. So we had that, and Stark is turning 12 in 2 days, so we've also been doing a bunch of prepping for his birthday. So I just haven't had an awful lot of free time really at all. Like, it's not like I have free time, but it's been nonstop family stuff. That's the same reason why before you hit record we were talking, and you were like, I bet you haven't watched any Raw, and I was like, I have watched 0 of Raw so far. Let me tell you where I'm at as far as like my own personal enjoyment. Not only have I not played Flesh and Blood, I've not played Star Wars, other than like, again, Stark at home, Talishar, Karabast. Like, yes, I've done those things, but I haven't went out to play games in a very long time. But I have seen 0 episodes of Andor season 2, and
neither have I, for that matter.
Okay, but here's the thing: like, that is definitely something that I should have done by now.
Same,
like,
hard same. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie. Like,
yes,
full stop.
mine as well. And I loved season 1 of Andor, and I've seen 0 episodes. Not like, oh, I just haven't seen the last what. Like, I've seen 0 episodes of season 2 at this point. So yeah, I just have to get through it. It was at the point because like my birthday's coming up soon too, because it's like just after Starks, and so Sophie's like, "What do you want to do for your birthday?" And it's like, I don't want to do anything.
I want to leave the house and play with squares of cardboard. The fuck do you think I wanted?
Yeah, maybe.
I have not seen any of Andor. I will freely admit that a lot of that is so like Holly wants to watch it with me, and for no particular reason really, but
Sophie gave me the pass, and I've still seen none of it because I've had no me time.
So every time that we've had time, she's always has been in the I don't want to watch anything new headspace, and it's like, cool. So I guess I'm not watching that. And then also, like, in the times that it would have been possible, I've been like knee deep into playing Expedition 33 or
haven't started it.
Game's gas.
Gas. I know everything I've seen of it looks fantastic. Again, just no me time. Like, I wish I could say like, oh, I haven't been playing Flesh and Blood because I've been doing like this cool thing or whatever, but it's family time. Well, and the other side is the occupational therapy stuff, right? Yeah. So like today, like right now my arm hurts so much because of like all the shenanigans that they're putting it through. And they did warn me ahead of time. They were like, look, we're purposefully going to try to piss your arm off, but it hurts.
I mean, I'm drinking cups of coffee at 9 p.m. the charmer way.
Yeah.
Because I have to, once we're done with this, because we're recording on a Monday so that we could get the banned and restricted announcement and the LL points updated so that we could talk about it, which means that directly after this gets done recording at probably about 11:30 my time, I then have to edit the whole thing and post it, and then I can go to bed for a couple of hours before I have to get up for work. So I do a lot for you people. I just want you to know that I appreciate you, and that's why I'm willing to do this to myself. That, and I don't sleep anyway, so it doesn't fucking matter. I guess the only thing I really did in Flesh and Blood this week is we had a ProQuest locally, and whenever it's at the LGS that I normally, that's closest to me, I TO those events.
I was gonna say, don't you normally like judge that or whatever?
I TO it usually.
Yeah, TO, yeah.
Because you have to have a separate TO and judge. And so then nobody, like I could attach somebody's name from the LGS, but I mean, that doesn't feel right. I'd rather, they wouldn't be running the event. The judge would be doing all of it anyway. And I also don't want to put that strain on a judge, because that's bullshit when they have to TO and, do all the tournament paperwork, enter results, answer judge calls, do all the deck checks on their own, anything like that. I don't like it personally. I feel like, we need to give the judges more support. And so whenever that LGS does handle that, I go ahead and I just do the TO duties. He just handles the judging. All good. So that's what I did. Our local was won by Kano. A lot of forgetting about Dre over here.
I really need to come to your events. Because here's the thing, I always plan for Wizards at mine, and then we'll get like one that shows up.
There was only one Kano in the room, and he did not take the only L he had is in the last round of Swiss. He just scooped because he was already locked, and he was locked in as either the first or second seed regardless. And so it's just like, I'm hungry. And so just scoop him up and go get something to eat while Swiss plays out. And then he got paired into Verdance, was like, I think I can take my pants down right now and everything will be fine. Incorrect. And then a Jarl, which was kind of playing with his food a little bit.
I was going to say, does Jarl even have like game into Kano?
81. Yeah. Nope.
I mean, you're really
everything can be done
hoping,
on stack, right? Like,
well, yeah, I was just gonna say, like, you're really just hoping that you catch them with a non-combo, non-blocking hand, and you can destroy two pieces of equipment off of it. Like, right. Otherwise, I don't see, at least against a skilled Kano player, how Jarl has game into that.
Right. And doesn't really. But so usually the judge usually just takes the judge pack and the play mat, and then whatever the store payout is for the staff, we just split it 50-50. This time, because no store has product, we will talk about that, believe me. And but since no store has product really at all, we were giving out bright lights for people, and we ran out of that. We just took store credit, and I just said, hey, if you just want all the store credit and aren't really interested in anything in the judge packs for season 6, I'll just take the judge pack. You can just take all the store credit. I don't really care. And he's like, yeah, I want that. So I have judge pack. It's right here. We need to open it. So I'm going to open it. I'm going to see how disappointed I am. It's probably very. I'm like,
I can't wait for you to somehow, out of a judge pack, open a gold vest.
Okay. So, okay. There's my Zen State. That's two-sided. They're sweet, but I already have a cold foil, so no. Oh, we did it!
Okay.
That's the Savage Sash.
Yeah.
Like, that's the one.
That's the good one.
We actually did it for once.
We did
Holy
the thing.
shit. And that's good because I don't know where my KO Armory deck is somewhere in my office. And
it doesn't matter. Sash is going to get like banned soon or whatever anyway, the same way that like Vest is ruined in every format you want.
God damn it. Okay, how quickly can I sell this? What are they on TCG Player? Let me look here. Doing this in real time. They are $275. Anybody willing that wants to purchase one for right around that, you let me know. But I finally won one. It's been a while since we actually opened something good. Yeah. And now it's like literally sitting right next to my coffee cup, not in a sleeve. Because as God intended.
Right.
But that's really all I did in Flesh and Blood this week. But we've got a lot to talk about. We'll do the easy checkoffs first.
The guns?
Battle Hardens. There's 2 of them. One of them was in Tokyo, which was won by Ryosuke Urase on Florian. It was a Florian mirror in the finals, I believe. Top 8 of that one was Syndra, Fang, 2 Florian, 2 Kano, a Dash IO, and a Rhinar, which the Rhinar don't pay attention to because it's Eugene C., who always plays Rhinar and somehow can win with the deck regardless. So Eugene, like, it shouldn't be he played Rhinar. The hero's just Eugene. We just leave it at that at this point. Next up was Battle Hard in Milan. That was won by Lorenzo Brambilla Pisoni on New. And so that top 8 was 2 Florian, 3 Azalea. That's a lot of people trying to make Death Dealer go away. 1 New, 1 Victor, and I wrote 1 Victor twice. I'm trying to remember what the last one was in there. Luckily, the Flesh and Blood website has like what they've done with their event coverage so that you can look at deck lists in the standings of events is still fucking brilliant. So I can just click on view standings and hey, there are the heroes. Victor, New, 3 Azaleas, 2 Florians, and a Syndra. So not really much to see here. No prisms, I guess. But with Florian kind of being the deck right now, prism's not about that life. Seeing a bunch of Azaleas is interesting to a degree. But Florian's kind of the best deck. I think people kind of accept that. It also explains why a couple of Syndras got through, because the Florian matchup, like, Syndra just puts the foot on the gas and says, okay, sounds great. Send me the bill. I'm just going to keep doing the thing. Hopefully if they're like, I'm going to hold on to this felling, so that I can do something, next turn and disrupt them. It's like, okay, here's 28. What do you got? I have a felling. You got it, dude. So that's, that's probably why you're seeing a couple Syndras float through. Seeing Fangs float through is always interesting. I always just get the feeling that Fangs are running hot whenever I see them in top 8s. That's the only thing in my head, because even again in like certain matchups like Syndra, if Fang hits fealty any later than turn 2, they're not favored. It's very bad. You look at the Fang matchup in Kano, it's 0%. Like, just die. So, and then obviously Fang into like Florian's a little bit different, but again, you have to get online fast. If you don't get online fast, okay, game's easy. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, seeing Fangs is always weird. Dash IO is looking like they might be terrifying due to high seas pretty soon. Yeah, I don't know. Like, what do you think when you see these as your decks? I see a bunch of the best decks plus specialists. What do you get?
Yeah, pretty much. What I what I mostly get out of it is like, even though I don't play the game, I'm tired of being right about it, because I've been saying for a while that like Florian was a better deck than people thought it was, even before Aurora LL'd. And then, hey, look, it's like Florian was pretty good, and then it started winning events. In fact, again, part of it is because Aurora LL'd so early in the season, but I did like that the Flesh and Blood thing shared that Florian technically had more wins over this ProQuest season, right? So not surprising. Kind of exactly what you and I had talked about when we said, all right, Aurora's LL'd, what do you see happening? And I said, well, I expect Florian to be the next man up, if you will. And it turns out that was exactly what happened. So yeah, it really is just, you know, best decks. And I know that we're not like talking about high numbers of it, but like new is still in that like same thing. I know there was the one in the Milan Battle Hardened, none in the other one, but I think that, you know, when you look at the ProQuest numbers, new is still there in the mix, probably a top 3 or 4 deck as well. I really think High Seas is going to shake things up a bit, both for like Dash.io, but I also think that we're going to get like 2 very viable versions of Marlin. I still need to see more of the set. I keep going back and forth on Gravy Bones because there's a lot of his kit that I like, and there's a lot of the kit that feels like it's exploitable.
Things I don't like. Yeah.
So I think Gravy Bones might end up, unfortunately, falling victim to what many of the ally classes historically have fallen victim to, which is that they have very polarized matchups. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
I think it's going to be worse.
I think that we have to see the rest of the kit for sure, but there's a lot I like in his kit, and then there's a lot that it's like, oh man, against the wrong class, this is going to be a nightmare.
Yeah, I don't think Gravy Bones can ever survive a ninja, like at all. Period.
Yeah, ninjas and some warriors as well. Just really,
Kasai specifically, but
just really feel bad.
I mean, you look at your hand of allies like sick, and then the Syndra just goes, they don't block. Present a million, I guess. And they're like, okay, well, play my allies. That's cool. Thanks for the free mass trigger that you just put on board. All right. So, not seeing it. I think that Gravy Bones is kind of a meme as of right now, but we'll talk about that when we get there. Final Living Legend check after ProQuest season leaves us with Dash still at the top of the list at 976. So Dash is 1 Nats win away. So whichever Asian nationals, Southeast Asian nationals Dash wins will LL Dash. News at 954, also probably gone national season.
Yeah.
Azalea's at 931, also probably gone in national season. From there, you have the danger zone I consider to be 700 points. You have Phi at 805, which won't, Phi will go nowhere for a while. Got 9 points in all of Hunted Season, which translates to 3 ProQuest wins across all ProQuests. Kano's at 789, so just getting close. Like we're getting that spot where we can maybe finally get rid of Kano. Bravo crawled up to 769, with 6 total wins. KO got 10 total wins to go up to 737. And then you get to your problem child that is Florian, who had 502 points during Hunted Season, and it sits at 702 now. That's a lot. Your next closest is New with 369. And then Syndra with 327. So, yep, that's what really does look like the new best deck. And they talk about that in the banned and restricted announcement that we'll cover in a little bit. But that's, by a little bit, basically now. So we'll dive into it because I think this is probably going to be the thing we talk about the most on this show. A lot fucking happened in one fell swoop.
Little bit.
So a couple of things that were unexpected, along with 2 things that I definitely expected. So and I know we talked about it on here, and we've talked about it in our Discord and a couple of other places. So the CC changes are Count Your Blessings is now just banned. If you want to go into you can read the page of notes that Brian put out there about why. And most of it is, it's a pain in the ass, is the long and short of it. It's terrible for armories because it's just not a great experience for newer players. Design wise, they always have to say, okay, well, we're putting something new, a good new defense react. We have to test CYB now, and every playtest game is going to take at least 50 minutes. And so it just becomes a grind to just test new things. And you always have to be cautious when you're talking about just thinking about the card in general. So it just opened up areas where it just needed to go. And I agree. Yeah. That's one of the things I thought was going to get banned. Scepter of Pain got banned, which I also was one of the ones I said I thought was going to go. For the reason that in the minds of LSS, in the data that they had, the best performing deck, even with Aurora around, by the numbers, when you removed representation from the equation, was Florian. And so they said, we got to take something from Florian. They also took Germinate, though. The rationale on that one was, one, deterministic states, right? So in a game where you're kind of going into that stack era where they're getting to a deterministic point, they can just kind of stall until they start hitting their germinates, and then they just germinate you to death. Okay.
Yeah.
Get it.
And
sounds good.
And the thing is like, Flesh and Blood historically has been a game that rewards people that know their pitch stack, right? You know, good fundamentals, blah, blah, blah. The thing about Germinate is, and I'm not taking this away from anybody, but you could accidentally still set up great Germinate states because it's already a blue and you want to pitch it with all the rest of your blues so that you can just have these massive Germinates late game because you're like looking to do the thing. And
it's organic.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that makes sense. Yeah, that very true. They also unbanned Bonds of Ancestry Red, kind of as a, okay, let's find out if Bonds did just die for Zen's sins. And so give Katsu a little bit of the toolbox back. I personally think they probably could have just unbanned all of them, but I get dipping a toe in with that kind of card. Like, understandable. I think it's more interesting what didn't get banned. So I was also of the opinion that they were going to hit the red Rootbound Carapace, which they did not. But the Germinate ban sort of covers a little bit of that because it's you're leaving a defensive tool, but that was a tool, an endgame tool. So like the defensive tool doesn't do as much if your endgame changes. And they didn't ban anything from the Ranger kit. That surprises the shit out of me. Because, again, with just the current stuff out there, the Marlin aggro deck can put together obscene turns off of 3 of a kind, or just Death Dealer sometimes. Since Death Dealer is going to load 2 arrows, right? And that's, I think it's a miss personally, but it's also, I get that they maybe want to see the deck building puzzle get solved.
Or there's just more stuff that we haven't seen yet.
It could be that.
I mean, that is still the potential. I know it doesn't feel that way, but
there's a problem with that though. The hero that we've seen the least of their kit is Marlin. So the hero that I think is problematic is probably getting more tools.
Possibly.
Not great.
The thing that I keep having to remind myself though, right, is that like, yes, we have not seen a lot of the set, so much so that there's been, quite a bit of doom and gloom, I think, on social media as people get ready to prep for, the actual nationals events, because there's so little that we've seen. But also, it's not just that we have the set. We also have a whole armory deck coming.
Right.
That we don't have the full list for yet either. And so, like, yes, we have, seen more of Gravy's stuff than, say, Marlin's, but also, like, just by the math, like, Gravy's going to get more than Marlin, too. There's just, I think, a lot of, potential unknowns there. My only concern is if that's the case, I would be kind of afraid that maybe it's going to be a little too silver bullety. The last thing that I want is for them to create the problem and then sell the solution and have the solution be like another, and I'm just hypothetically throwing this out there, but if it's another generic Majestic that also solves the problem.
Yep.
I don't think that's the case, but like I could understand the community sentiment that would exist if that were the case, right? If we went through a set where they were like, hey, let's make Syndra and Flick Knives and all this stuff be relevant and then print Shelter, and then if they did something similar to that again, there would be an outcry and justifiably so.
A justified one at that point. We're already at the point where things like Warmonger's Diplomacy is probably something that people have to care about owning again, and I don't know, like it seems like Ranger's going to eat real good for about a month, and we'll see what happens. But there's also, let's go to the rest of the changes really quick, and then we'll kind of talk about them overarching, the overarching portions of this. So in Blitz, they banned Channel Lightning Valley. They also banned Count Your Blessings, Flicker Wisp, and Storm Striders. So they're actively trying to slow that shit down a little bit, but not to the CYB levels. Obviously, they see that, yes, in Blitz, Aurora is equal problem as she was in CC, if not worse. And then the Storm Striders ban is just like, okay, we need to bring Emperor and Blaze down to, well, probably mostly Blaze, just kind of back down to like reasonable levels. So it's not, a 3-turn format. Living Legend changes. There's a lot here, by the way. And they're actually very important all of a sudden. So
it's a whole new format as far as I'm concerned.
It is. So Carrion Husk and Crown of Seeds are gone. So we're taking 2 hits to a hit to Bravo and a hit to Chain right there. Then they restricted Cull, Deadwood Dirge, and Succumb to Temptation. So bigger hits to Chain. The unrestricted Hypothermia to sort of give Icelander a fighting chance. And all of this kind of rounds out to Living Legend is going to be a format at Worlds this year. Which... And the World Championship will have Living Legend.
Yeah.
And there's also going to be in 2025 a ProQuest season. So that has Living Legend. So they're ramping up support for the Living Legend format pretty hard and are now focusing on like correcting some of the egregious wrongs. Now they do talk about in the article, Brian talks about the fact that he understands that that Chain and Starvo's problem isn't the cards, it's the text box of the hero.
Right.
And fucking accurate. We all know that.
But that it's funny because that brings me to when I saw these Living Legend changes, I was like, man, the format's kind of wide open, but also, man, Zen looks really appetizing all of a sudden in Living Legend because the text box is the problem.
Also, like, Briar gets to play Channel Lightning Valley, and Regrowth Shock is a card that people forgot existed for a bit. So Briar's eating pretty good here. Honestly, Viscerai, while Dirge getting restricted is bad, like Viscerai doesn't have to race to their pop-off turn near as hard, so it's not that big of if Chain and Starvo are just slightly slower and slightly are slower and a little bit worse, especially with the Crown ban.
Yeah.
Viscerai doesn't have to race as hard to that state, and so the Dirge ban doesn't hit near as hard. It's 2 cards, so they still get to play 9 copies of Malefic. So who gives a fuck? I think we have a different format all of a sudden. I don't feel as though Starvo and Chain are no longer the best decks. I think they probably still are.
I don't know.
Losing Crown is huge.
Crown is such a massive piece of the Starvo puzzle, and people severely, I think, underestimate how important it is. It is not just obviously, you know, the floating prevention. It is making sure that you go one card deeper trying to assemble your hero power, and it's also a
fucking dark ritual 2/3 of the time too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is very much also a, you know, the 5-card hand, you know, enabler to set up those things where it's like, oh, I have my hero ability and it's on like crippling crush and I can play a real attack after it as well.
Yeah, Tunic Crown on those turns is fucking absurd.
It is such a massive piece of the Starvo puzzle. Is Starvo, you know, dead? No, but it is no longer, in my opinion, like even top 3 decks without Crown. That might be a hot take, but
that's a pretty hot take.
I severely, like, I still think Chain, if we're talking, you know, the big dogs, right? I think Chain is better than Starvo if Starvo doesn't have Crown and doesn't have, you know, those other pieces that it's lost along the way recently. I think Icelander gets, you know, a decent amount of help here, but also, if I'm being entirely honest, I think Viserai looks really good right now. I think Zen looks really good right now. Don't sleep on Prism, because if you don't have Starvo just like auto beating the Prisms, like, she can be very dangerous in this format. Yeah, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there's some meat on the bone. LL is very interesting all of a sudden as far as that goes. Speaking of LL, they also changed the way Living Legend points work again. So this is kind of that thing that we talked about, you know, the ongoing, the constant improvement type of attitude. And so now they actually have fractional points built into the back end of Gem. So this season, for ProQuest Singapore season, it should have been that every event was worth 2.51 Living Legend points, but they didn't have fractions built into it, so it rounded to 3, which is kind of a big deal when you're talking about, you know, Zen kind of just barely getting over the hump and things like that. That's important. So now they'll be able to actually have proper point distributions for the number of events. And then also now they're going to scale the points that are earnable by heroes based on legality. So if the hero's been legal for less than a year, the points will be halved for that hero. If they've been legal for less than between a year and 2 years, there's no multiplier. It's just normal. But if they've been legal for over 2 years, they get a 1.5 times multiplier to kind of reset, right? We'll call it the Azalea effect because it makes sense. I think that this is a good change. Personally,
I'm on the fence. So I understand. So I understand the intention, and I agree with the intention. The intention here is obviously, and they outline this in the article. People, if they are just getting into the game or just getting into a new hero or excited about a new hero who releases, should have some level of confidence that they will be able to play that hero for a decent length of time. So slowing this down specifically in, you know, that first year with the 0.5 factor makes sense, right? Because there's, you know, it's not just the players who are losing out on stuff when, you know, we have what happened to Aurora happen, for example. It's very clear that sometimes it messes with LSS's plans as well, because they built in all of that new player experience for Aurora, right? So, you know, as much as, you know, folks were complaining, they were feeling it too. So, like, I get it. However, not only did Aurora LL really fast, but again, look at what Florian did the moment she was gone. And, you know, if we're being real here, like, Florian gained a kind of ridiculous amount of points as well, but that would only be half that right now. So I am on the fence because we have not seen how this change will be married to other potential changes yet. So in a vacuum, based on history, this scares me that really powerful heroes will just continue to be really powerful well after, like, when they should be out of a meta, and it could create a level of staleness. However, we don't, you know, all of the bans and restrictions and suspensions and all of that have been made to date have been done so at the pace and with the regularity and impact and whatever, with the old Living Legend system in mind, right? So it's very easy to say, like, hey, it would really suck if, like, you know, Florian and Aurora were, you know, still around and we had to worry about them for, you know, X number of, you know, additional seasons, blah, blah, blah. But I also think that if this were already in place, then we probably would have seen bans hit Aurora much sooner, Florian as well much sooner. So I'm giving, like all things, right, big trust with LSS, because given time, they usually get it right. But I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that with this change, I would expect more aggressive balance changes when needed. I don't think it'll always happen. I just think that when things are as lopsided as they can appear to be, I would expect more balance adjustments within that first year period, because, you know, they know that they, you know, in the past we used to say, like, well, do they just let it run its course? And that's kind of what they did with Aurora. Now we know that's basically not an option. So what do you do then? Right. And we just don't know. You know, you don't know what you don't know. So.
Yeah, I get it. I think that the 0.5 allows them time to balance a hero if it's a kind of out of balance. Because, you know, we are dealing with human beings. They're not perfect. They get most things right, but there are misses. And the ability to correct those misses before a hero just disappears. Like, we talked about this with Aurora specifically, with what were they going to do? She had already kind of crossed the Rubicon before they really had an opportunity to do shit. And okay, but if we'd had that 0.5 multiplier in there, they could have said, okay, fuck it. Ban Flicker Wisp, and, you know, maybe take out not Gone in a Flash because Acilio dies, but something else, right? Like, let's take out two things that, you know, to slow her the fuck down.
I love how you said Acilio dies like Acilio is alive.
I mean, valid. But
And I'm only making that joke because if there's anybody who understand each other, it's Katsu and Acilio, because they die for everyone else.
Yeah, that's accurate. And Katsu's been around since the beginning and dies for people's sins.
My headcanon is that Acilio is actually just Katsu's literal spirit energy, and that after he's passed away in the lore, he comes back as an electrical golem somehow.
You know what? Fuck it. It works. We're just going to go with it. So let's talk a couple of things with this announcement specifically. Let's talk about U.S. Nationals, and then national seasons in general. But, so U.S. Nationals, you are right. We do not still have the information that players need, me being one of them, to effectively test at all. And I'm largely okay with that, personally, because I have a deck that I can play that will be generally good, right? I know what I'm doing with it. As long as, you know, I'm not completely shit on by the gem lottery, which is usually what happens, no problem. Your bigger issue for me in this is that Limited is impacted heavily, because we still don't know any of the card pool. I mean, we know less than a third of the card pool. So, like, we still can't do anything with that. And I completely get the world premiere being They want stuff saved so that it feels special. My answer to that is that's cool, and I love that. I really enjoy that. But don't put Nationals weekend, U.S. Nationals on fucking release weekend then. Maybe not that. The other part here is we have the picture of what is likely going to be legal for U.S. nationals. Other countries are still in a lurch because, the LL checks from the rest of nationals are going to have profound impacts on a lot of these decks. So let's say that Azalea is a 1.5 multiplier, right? Not going to take long for her to get out at that point. And let's say you've been testing Marlin with Death Dealer. And your nationals, because you're not in the United States, isn't until the third weekend. Your entire testing may die in week 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then what? And it doesn't make sense to not test what you think is the best thing to play. It's just you're rolling bones at that point. There's going to be a little bit of other places copying the homework from U.S. nationals, right? I mean, but it's also really hard. The decks that come in U.S. nationals for the high seas heroes are not going to be even close to optimized. Like, there's no time for that to be true. There are going to be shells, but probably of what's good, with maybe the exception of like aggro Marlin, because it's probably going to, the way that Marlin is built for high seas for the most part, from what we've seen, is that she's built to be tankier, firing big gun harpoon. But you also look at the redliner replacement that exists. We haven't seen what looks like the arrows for that yet. So it might even be fucking scarier than it is now. We don't know. We don't know if there is another piece of equipment that interacts with red arrows. We don't know shit about fuck. And it's getting to be a strain, especially now that we'll talk about the other elephant in the room, because we don't know how the fuck we're going to get a hold of cards. And MinMax did a great video. If you don't, hashtag no free ads. If you don't subscribe to MinMax's YouTube channel, you should. Every now and again, probably about once a month-ish, Peter, the CEO of MinMax, will release a video talking about a market update for the status of Flesh and Blood Marketplace, right? And this, a month ago, was talking about tariffs, because valid, right?
Mm-hmm.
This time it was talking about high sea supply issues, and the communication was everybody's allocations is cut. The shit doesn't exist. And it's, he did take a couple of choice shots at people, at, one at Yu-Gi-Oh players, which that one made me fucking laugh. And then one at backpack vendors, which also made me laugh. But he basically said, buy what you can, because that's it. It's not out there. There's talk of a restock, but that initial wave, it is what it is. And good luck. So, and he's even communicated, as I know that's been not necessarily from MinMax, but that's been cascaded down to other people as well that are used to obtaining product from a sponsor, obtaining product from whoever else. And the message has been plain: buy boxes wherever you can, because nobody has them. And that's scary when you're talking about an ecosystem where if any of these heroes in high seas are, A tier or better, fuck if B tier really, or better, the cards for them on Nationals weekend are going to be $1 billion. Because supply and demand, babe, we are the pure capitalism at that point. And I don't really fault a vendor for saying, yep, this card is $100 and you need 3 of them. Because they can probably get $100 from the right people for them. And if there are 12 total copies in the room, might be a bargain. And it's hard. I know that locally, I'm hoping that I've pre-ordered 2 cases. I'm hoping I get them. And I feel like that will get me a lot of the way there for stuff. If I wanted to play specifically Marlin, I don't think I have the time, energy, or willpower to learn Puffin. And I don't miss Magic enough to play Gravy Bones. So I'm going to be more into the, Marlin seems like a good deck on 2 axes. That's probably what I'm going to be interested in. But we're in a really, really bad spot because of these things. And I am not, again, our attitude has not changed. At least mine hasn't, of big trust. I feel like LSS is definitely in a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice mode with print runs and a lot of different things because history has taught them to be cautious. And I get that. That is not a criticism there. Moreover, the choices that they made specifically surrounding U.S. nationals right now are coming to clearer view, and it's not pretty. Now, I trust that the adjustments will be made by LSS in the future, but that doesn't fix the now. So big trust still exists, but fuck is it rough right now. So we may be just very well looking at a CC format that ignores almost entirely high seas. And we may be looking at a draft format where anybody that got a hold of product earlier will have a massive advantage. I don't know what else to think about that. Darick, where you at?
I mean, it's definitely a concern. I think that this is just like one of those perfect storm situations where kind of everything is coming to a head, right? Hunted was just wildly successful. We know that there are impending distribution issues. We know that there are impending tariff issues. We know that there are a number of global things that is potentially impacting high seas just in general, right? Mm-hmm. Then you factor in the release being so close to nationals. Then you factor in that, again, a lot of the set has not yet been revealed to preserve that world premiere feeling, which again, I enjoy. I found myself as I, again, saw some of the doom and gloom in the discourse on social media, kind of taking a trip down memory lane because I couldn't help but think about the time that for heavy hitters in the Celebrational, there was a lot of folks that felt that the folks at the Celebrational were going to get that like unfair competitive advantage thing. And there was a lot of discourse about that. And on the one hand, what I think about this current situation is like, well, everyone's in the same boat, right? We don't have like, it would be even worse if we also had like a Celebrational thing occurring. And then it would be, more nightmarish. But so at least, everyone's in the same boat. But everyone is in the same boat as far as being in a situation where the factors impacting the availability are the same. The problem that I have is that this is going to be an incredibly time-sensitive situation, and not everybody is in the same boat with their ability to adapt, right? There's already a lot of complaints about the game being expensive. Accessibility has always been a hot button for this game since its inception, just because, right, again, it launched during COVID, a number of things. But I think that if you're trying to think about like times where the game was hard to get like a hold of what you needed, as well as when it was potentially impacting competitive outcomes, this might be the closest I have felt to worried since basically since I started playing. Like right when I very first started playing the game, there was a lot of concerns about like whether or not you could get a hold of Crucible stuff in time for some of those early road
Crucible is bad.
You know, this is what that reminds me of. I have not felt this way since Crucible,
where people are paying $50 for find centers.
Yes, and snags were like 60
$70. Yep.
Just to give, you know, folks the idea, and that was way back then with a much smaller player base. So that's, you know, that's my concern. But the problem is like I can voice those concerns, but given this short of a time frame, I don't have any solutions. And I hate being one of those guys that just like points out the negative just to be like pointing out the negative. I don't want to pile on. I'm sure LSS is aware of it as well, but the reality is like, yeah, it looks and feels bad right now. But I also, unless they already have some other trick up their sleeve that we just are not privy to, I don't know what they do to solve it for this event and this time around. Like, we're just looking at a short turnaround. So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I don't envy the situation or the position of LSS at all. It's difficult to balance all the factors. End of day, they do need to do what's best for business. And I firmly believe that they are doing everything that they can to make it the best for players as well. And having these world premieres, if you've never been to one, are a fucking blast. Like, go to one. It's so much fun. And I know that the people in Taipei are going to have an absolute blast opening these cards. We're going to see them kind of in real time. We've seen some of them already. We're going to see treasures get opened. We're going to see, you know, the fun shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the only downside to this is that you have the strain of one of the most you know, highly competitive events on the calendar, really, for Flesh and Blood. Because you think about it, there's the 2 Pro Tours, there's Worlds, and there's Nats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, for better or worse, U.S. Nationals is the largest of them. So you're looking at what would ostensibly be the 5th most coveted, that's the wrong word, but highest value event as far as monetary value goes, I guess, event on the calendar for Flesh and Blood. And it's being squeezed by all of the circumstances we just talked about. That's hard. That's real hard. And the only thing they could have done differently in my mind is don't put the event on release weekend. Move it, you know, have it be 2 weeks later. But I also understand these contracts and shit, they get signed way ahead of time. And the predictability of all of this is nigh impossible. So it's not like they could reverse course. It's not like they could, pun kind of intended. It's not that they could make a different decision because they're pretty well locked in. And it's also, and people again need to understand this, it's not like you can just push a button and print more product.
Right.
There are queues. There are not that many printers worldwide that can print at the necessary quality for all of these card games. And there are so many fucking card games right now. So you think about, you know, and Peter brings this up, but Pokemon is doing crazy numbers. Magic is coming off a return to a beloved set, you know, beloved playing for their set, and then going straight into Final Fantasy, which is a mind-blowingly popular IP. And then you think about One Piece doing really well. You think about Star Wars doing well. Vibes doesn't exist. But you think about these places and they all tend to print from the same printers. So there are print schedules too. So you can't just phone up Cardamundi and go, hey, I need 10,000 cases of high seas and I need them in 2 weeks. That's not how anything works. So they're kind of over a barrel when it comes to this stuff. And I don't know that there's a good solution. I mean, there's not a good solution now, obviously. But I don't know where I would expect them to have the ability to have enough foresight to be ahead of this. I just don't.
And again, even if they did, we're back to what I was saying, which is, what do you do to fix it?
Right. Not much.
Not much.
And so here we are. And again, I have zero doubt that LSS will learn from any sort of issues that arise, and that they will just won't say, okay, like we won't let this happen again.
Right.
Right. And that's one of the things we love about LSS and we love about the game. But right now, it's a bad look. And if it does happen again, that becomes reputation damaging. That's where you start taking hits, in my mind. But now let's talk about the fun stuff with High Seas, which are the cards. We did get a ton of spoilers over the weekend. They range from, that's kind of cool, to holy fucking shit, what is that? So I have tasked my friend Darick with finding 3 cards that he wants to talk about. So Darick,
yes,
what are your 3?
All right. Right out of the gate, we got to talk about a good boy.
Scooby?
Yeah. Scuba, salty sea dog.
Of course you love this thing.
Of course I do.
Of course you do.
It is a punny, fun reference to Scooby and the gang. It is a beloved animal. The art is fantastic. It checks all the boxes for me, but also I really like it because it feels like it might be one of the allies that ends up making the cut, because that's really what I've been looking at when I'm looking at the stuff that's been revealed for Gravy Bones. There's actually way more allies than I was originally expecting there to be, which, I mean, again, it doesn't make sense because of the armory deck coming in the set and whatever.
I know we're still missing at least one.
Yeah, there's a fair amount. So now it becomes like, okay, just kind of like when you were looking at early Dromai, what are the ones that make the cut?
Yeah,
I think Scuba is one of the ones that's going to be good enough to make the cut and has like a decent amount of impact, because it is a 0 cost, which is a big plus. And while the attack, it would be obviously significantly better if it was 2 instead of 3, because it's all things are pointing to Gravy Bones is going to have more yellows than probably anything else. It's still, a yellow pitch with Tunic if you end up playing Tunic, or, Dead Threads or whatever. But also, like, the rest of it is super relevant as well. It's a 4 attack. It's an ally with 4 health. 4 is obviously still pretty easy to deal with, but it does soak up a decent amount of damage, right? So if somebody's using one of their, 0 for 4 effects or whatever, hey, then you basically just gained 4 health. The thing that jumps out to me, though, is the ability on attack, right? So when I'm thinking about things that Gravy Bones wants to do, Scuba, if you're not familiar, when this attacks, you may put a yellow card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's deck. If you do, create a gold token. So if you have things with Watery Grave that have not entered from the arena, right? So allies or other things that are in your discard pile, but they're face up, so they still count as yellow. This will give you an opportunity to, stick them back in so you get a second chance, right? Mm-hmm. That's just, bare minimum. If there are cards that are, potentially other silver bullet cards that you've included, because I'm going to talk about another one that happens to be yellow as part of my 3. this can also potentially get that one back. But what really jumped out to me, what sealed this one as opposed to the other allies, because it was almost going to be
along.
Yeah, it was almost going to be the big boy, right? Because I like swinging for 11. Yeah, it was almost going to be Humperdinck. But what really sold this one for me is because it is any graveyard, there is some really very niche uses, but they fill me with such joy. And that is when you're playing against Levia, if you really want to mess with their like, hey, number of like attacks with 6 or more in their graveyard that they're counting on, you can just start shoving them back in their deck so that they don't have enough to banish for their effects. And then, granted, before today, I thought Count Your Blessings was still going to be a thing. And so that was the other part. I was like, all right, well, yeah, you shove it back in, but like if you are preventing them from gaining more life now, then maybe you just kill them before it's relevant. Like there's uses. We've already seen that this is a game that's going further and further into, the things in various decks discard piles matter. I think that this is an effect that you can get a lot of mileage out of, but again, this being a 0 cost, good attack value, good defense or health value on it, relevant effect, like it checks all the boxes while also being a dog. So
it is a dog.
My first.
All right.
Second one I want to talk about, we'll just jump right to that one because I just kind of teased it while talking about Scuba. Midas Touch.
But Doomblade. Just call it Doomblade.
It's Doomblade.
It's Doomblade.
The dies to Doomblade memes are now real, except now you just turn them to gold. So if you're not familiar, Midas Touch, it's a yellow pitch, so that's why it can pair well with Scuba. Costs 1, and it simply says destroy target ally. Its controller creates gold tokens equal to its cost, and then
also
go
blocks
again.
3.
And
Important
I was
safety
getting
trip.
there. And then it also blocks for 3. So it's a generic, it blocks for 3, yellow pitch, but also just straight up nukes an ally with go again. So when you think about like Slay, for example, which only killed angels and was like a red pitch and whatever, this just seems really good. Like, yes, you're giving them a gold, but there's a lot of heroes that might not care about the gold. In some instances, you might not give them gold at all if it doesn't have a cost. I really like the idea of potentially doing this on your own things if you need the money as well.
If you need the money.
Right. Like, it sounds weird, but, if you are, again, playing Gravy Bones or something and you just start...
Pay 1 for 6 gold or something.
Yeah, you're in a need for some quick cash. You can hit the pawn shop. I think that this is one of those cards that will have a lot of potential use.
Now, I do have a question for Josh when he's back on soon. And that is, when a card is transformed, does it have a cost? Because if it doesn't, then you just get to blow up Dromai Dragons and Angels for free. Like,
right.
They don't get gold.
Well, because there's that, and then I was also even thinking, like, not that it matters because Eclipse will never be playable again, but like, what happens if you make an ally with Eclipse, right? Like,
or Oblivion.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on that regard. That's why I said maybe they don't have a cost. I
don't know yet.
I don't know. We'll have to wait and ask Josh. But either way, I think that that's one of those cards that will, at a minimum, be considered for certain sideboards. So it resonated with me. And then the last one is technically it's 3. It's the cycle. But I got to talk about the colored harpoons, the red, the yellow, and the blue.
Yeah. Harpoons of color, but yeah. Yeah,
harpoons of color. So all of them are blue pitch, block 3. They cost 2, swing for 4. They're Pirate Ranger actions. They all go fish. And then I'll just read the blue one, but just again, remember it's a cycle. There's one for each color. When this hits a hero, they choose and reveal a card from their hand. If it's blue, they discard it and you create a gold token. If you've activated a cannon this turn, instead look at their hand and you choose the card. So again, my favorite thing in the game is, and always has been, making my opponents discard cards. They gave me a whole cycle of ones that do it. Like, I couldn't be more excited. And the fact that it's a whole cycle means you can run 9 of these if you really want. I think that the Go Tall version of Marlin that's running the hammerhead cannon, the harpoon cannon, will want to run all of these because when paired with the cannon, right, it's, you pay the 6, but you're getting an 8 overpower that makes them reveal their hand, and then you hopefully make them discard a card. Like, that's really good for a blue. Like, for a blue, that's really good rate.
Again,
and then we already have
clean pitch 2 blues, right?
Yeah, we already have the existing other 2 harpoons that were revealed earlier. This was enough where I was like, okay, because before I'd kind of joked about it, I was like, all right, maybe there's a small chance that I play this new, quote unquote Guardian Ranger that's running pummel, right? Because all of these harpoons so far have costed 2, which means I can also pummel them. I also, granted, you said just 3, but Return Fire also helped with my, like, do I want to play the Go Tall, like, Guardian version of Marlin?
We'll talk about that card in a second. Don't worry about it.
So yeah, this cycle made me very happy. And the last part that I just want to mention is it looks like, I might be wrong, maybe it's just the aesthetic, but it looked to me as if it was all one big art piece.
Yep.
It's not, I'm pretty sure, because I thought they all had different artists, but somehow with the art direction, it still ended up looking as if it was one big art piece.
It kind of does, yeah. I mean, it's not. I think that's accurate. It's not, but it does look that way.
Does look that way.
All right, I guess it's my turn. So I'm going to do a little bit different because I'm going to talk about a couple of things, specifically one card that I really love, but it's not going to be part of my 3 because it's equipment. I tend to keep equipment out of it. And it's legendary. I tend to keep those out of it. But because of the cards you just talked about, Sealay Sarong is busted.
Seems good.
Seems good giving those harpoons go again when you still have 2, resources, a card in hand plus a card in hand, or 2 cards in hand plus activate abilities. Codex comes to mind, stuff like that to do something absurd.
So the big things, as I started thinking about, like, if I did build this mythical Go Tall, like, Marlin thing, you're right, Codex is there. The other ones that I think are going to be really important are cards like, Premeditate, obviously, because you want that Ponder, you want to jam stuff in there. But any of your bonus to attack effects that have reload. I think reload's going to be really important for the harpoon cannon version of Marlin, because you want to... if you don't already have the thing in your arsenal, you want to be able to jam something down there because the cannon doesn't do that for you. It only buffs what's already there, right? So you got to have a way to naturally get it there.
Yep. And it's not that hard to get cards into your arsenal with Marlin. It just isn't. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, you still got equipment, right? Like, you can go old school, Bullseye Bracer, still really effective, right? Like,
you have Tunic 3 of a kind.
Yeah.
We did it.
So 3 of a kind is going to be really interesting because I believe you'll get, again, we'll have to wait and ask Josh, but I believe you'd get the individual triggers.
You do.
With the drawing, right?
You need to put 2 cards in your arsenal.
So you'd be able to jam 2 down and then use the blue
you can't use Sarong on those because they're put in face up.
Right. But it's still fine.
Right. It's still very reasonable. And if you're resource short, you can play Trench to ship one of them to the bottom to gain a resource. I mean, there's this all kinds of fun shit you get to do. There are a couple of questions that we have to wait on Josh with, but also it blocks 2 for some fucking reason. I think it's feet, right? It just has to be because of feet.
Because it's because it's exposed feet.
Yeah, feet are undefeated.
Right? You have to have like perch grapplers.
You didn't even comment
just
on
like
the undefeated when I talked about feet. That's very funny.
Exposed feet. Yep.
Undefeated is what I said.
Oh, I heard you.
Okay.
I was very proud of you.
I'm not. The first card I want to talk about that's non-equipment is actually Return Fire, like you talked about.
Card's so good.
Card is incredible. So it's a Ranger block card. It blocks 4.
This is a Ranger 0 for 7.
Pretty much.
Which is insane.
It's insane. When this defends, you banish an arrow from your hand. If you do it at the start of your next turn, put it face up into your arsenal. It gets +3 until end of turn. Now, there are a couple of tricks to this that you need to be aware of. First of all, in a New Horizons build, you do need a way to turn arrows face up at instant speed. Like Sarong. That turns arrows face up at instant speed.
Mm-hmm.
Or, if you're not wanting to play harpoons, you could also just play Barbed Castaway and do the same thing.
Or
and flip them instant speed.
You could just get whatever's in your arsenal out of it with Trench.
Or you can trench it away. This is a fucking 0 for 7. It's so goddamn good. And the first time I saw this, I was like, wait, that can't be right? It's like, nope, that's correct. Huh. Like, can you imagine just having it set up like you're in your Guardian version of the deck and you have block card, 2 blues, and fucking King Kraken Harpoon in your hand. And you just get to go, yeah, block 4, banish Harpoon, my turn?
Yeah.
Then you're harpooning for casual 13, overpower, on hit, choose a card, discard it, make a gold.
Yep. And
you blocked 4.
The thing that is also, I think, super relevant about this card as well is that it's very dangerous on your turn 0s.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Rangers typically want to go first because they want to get that shot at the arsenal, but if you lose the die roll or whatever, and then you're on the other end, if they do any sort of attacking into you, and you can just be like, all right, well, I'll just return fire, jam this thing in to the banish or whatever, and then draw back up anyway. Like,
yep.
Just beautiful. Like this card, this and the, like I said, that cycle harpoons I saw, I was like, all right, I had never wanted to play a Ranger before, but this kind of makes me want to do it. It's insane.
No, it's fucking incredible. Like, I kind of lost my mind when I saw it. I'm just like, shit, that's crazy. The next one, and for reasons, again, I'm not a mech person, right? But Cog in the Machine.
Yeah.
So it's very innocuous, right? When you read it the first time, it costs 1. It's red. It's a mechanologist action. It doesn't have Go Again. It doesn't have Crank. It blocks 3, but it's a red. And it's as simple as create 2 golden cog tokens. And then you may tap a cog you control. If you do, put this on the bottom of its owner's deck. Ever want to never get fatigued? Here you go. Just never get fatigued.
Unless they have a way to banish it.
If they have a way to banish it, but it's a red.
Sure, but
if they have a way to
it goes
banish
back in their
sure.
deck, and if I'm playing an assassin, I'm just, again, trying to throw Huntsman out is a viable fatigue deck, gang. If you if you want to get rid of these, then you just banish them.
But the other thing you need to remember is that while this doesn't have Go Again, it does make 2 golden cogs, and you can crank both of them to get 2 action points. And then tap one of them to send this to the bottom of the deck, still have 2 action points because reasons. Because it's part of the resolution of this card. And then kind of just go to town on a turn. The card's just good.
Yeah.
Straight up, the card's just good. And I'm more drawn to a lot of the utility cards in this. And then my third card is I'm drawn to it because it's fucking hilarious. But I think that this is absolutely bonkers good.
Is it give no quarter?
It's not give no quarter. That is.
I thought that was going to be your third.
That is on my honorable mention list because I think it's really, really fun. But it is not that. and it's not Portside Exchange, which I also think is
That would have been my other guess.
Ton of fun.
Yep.
That card is fucking dumb. I'm going to read Portside Exchange for everybody because it is dumb. It's 0 cost, blue pitch, block 3. So already doing it. Pirate action. Discard a card, then draw a card. If a yellow card is discarded this way, create a gold token, go again. Why can't I have this as Kasai?
You can have it on a future Kasai when she becomes a pirate.
A pirate?
You can have it on Rapier Kasai.
Rapier Kasai, yeah, sure.
Swashbuckling Kasai.
Second honorable mention is to Sea Legs. It's a great brute card. I'm surprised that you didn't take Lone Shark as one of yours, because it's literally a shark in a suit.
I mean, it is fantastic, but the problem is that I can't make silver with it.
It's true.
So it's dead to me.
All right. No, the one I want to talk about is Murderous Rabble.
Oh yeah, I love this one too. Yeah.
It's a 0 cost, 0 attack, block 3, blue with go again. When this attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. This gets +X, where X is the pitch value of the card revealed this way. It's Ravenous Rabble inverted.
Yep.
So it's at best a 0 for 3 as of right now. With go again. And it's a pirate action, so only the pirates can play it. But like, it's so flavorfully cool.
Yes.
It's just another Rabble.
Well, so it's at best a 0 for 4 because Gorganian Tome is still a thing. The same way
because Gorganian Tome has no pitch value, so it'd get +0.
Oh, right. It's inverted. Yeah. So if we ever
3
get
is the best you can do right now.
Yeah, right now.
So yeah, you just a 0 for 3 go again in blue is totally fine. And you want like things to pitch anyway. Which I think it's really funny to me that like the Guardian version of Marlin is probably a last ditch effort deck. But because that ends up being your weapon, because you just want to be able, you want blues to pitch anyway.
Right.
And so that ends up being, okay, we're down to last ditch efforts, kill you with last ditch effort. But I just love the flavor, if nothing else. Like there are other cards I think that are just like better cards. Fiddler's Green is stupid. Which is just block, the red is block 1, gain 3. So it's just Sigil of Solace that blocks 1. But this one specifically is, I don't know. I just love the idea. And that's good enough for me, to be honest. Did you have any like honorable mentions you want to talk through?
I mean, I kind of already started to do it when I was talking about Return Fire. And then Give No Quarter would have been my other one. It's just like, obviously it doesn't let you draw the cards the way Tome, but like when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is like the Tome of Imperial Flame, but for, pirate necromancers, right? Gravy Bones. Yep.
I think what we like, I wrote this as what did we find out about the heroes? I think we found out that they are what they thought they were outside of maybe Marlin. Puffin is crank away, make cogs make other things absurd, right?
Right.
So things like Jolly Bludger, where you get to steal shit, or we've talked about the Aeronaut before, where you get to destroy cards. The Dovetail, which gives go again. Like you just have a bunch of stuff like that. Gravy Bones is very much all about the allies. You mentioned Give No Quarter, which is fantastic. The flag is one of my favorite things, which is just, again, 0 cost blue, because Gravy Bones needs blues for his ability. And it's just the next 2 allies of the Watery Grave you play this turn cost 3 less to play. Pretty fantastic. We kind of found out that Gravy Bones doesn't really have a weapon in the set. Or, well, might. Does not have a common weapon in the set. So the compass is the weapon, so you kind of get the impression that like the allies are the weapons,
right?
And that's the design, and I think that that's completely reasonable. And then the Marlin is different because you do look
you have two
like
weapons.
you have two weapons, and they're very different from each other.
Very.
Because the harpoon really just wants harpoons and doesn't have a way to load things, whereas the bow really only loads things. That's all it does.
But I think that it's actually really cool what they've done with it, because when you're looking at these from a limited perspective, there are certain cards that you want to target depending on the weapon you want to run, right? If you start drafting a bunch of harpoons, then you're going to want the cannon, but there's already a number of cards we've seen that allow you to, potentially untap things. And so because that bow, when it loads, is using the new tap mechanic, you can get multiple loads per turn as long as you are taking advantage of that potentially. So I like that you can, even though it's one class, you can go down two different paths with that class, more so, at least on paper with what we've seen so far. Again, there's still a lot of set to be seen, but it looks like more so than the other two.
Yeah, but the moral of the story is you should always play Return Fire if you have the ability to play it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that moral of the story. Is there anything that you're still like kind of outside of just cards specifically? Is there anything that you're still kind of wondering about with the set?
Well, so obviously it was teased, right? So everybody wants to know what the, reprint is, what other surprises could potentially be in the treasures, that sort of thing. That's just one of those things that we'll have to see when the time arrives. I think that for me, the piece that is kind of lost for me right now, and it's in part because I'm less of an expert, so I would want to talk to somebody like Ben, for example, but I look at the new mech hero, and with other mech heroes in the past, it's not uncommon for weapons to potentially play a pretty big part in their kit. And we've seen, obviously, the new gun and things like that. I just don't know how much of that factors in, right? Like, I know that we've got cards like, what is it? Perk Up, Draw Back the Hammer, and I think there is another one.
Tighten the Screws.
Yep, Tighten the Screws.
Yep.
Where, it very specifically says, your next mechanologist attack, not necessarily attack action.
So pumps guns.
Yeah. Pumps guns, and certainly the new mechanologist hero can take advantage of that. So it's less about this set, like as far as the three heroes are contained, but it's also more so like how much of an impact does older cards also play into a factor with some of this stuff, right? So we're coming off of the Hunted, where we saw, a card like Flick Knives that just like its relevancy skyrocketed, right? I'm wondering if there are other older cards. It's easy to look at Ranger and say, okay, Three of a Kind, Codex, Premeditate, etc. But when you're looking at the Mechanologist suite, is there a scenario where they're still playing, Dash's pistol, and we were just talking about like, okay, what happens if she hits LL really quick halfway through the season? Then what, right? Because I could also see situations where
I think she just needs to win one,
right? But it's just one of those things where those ones that I was just talking about, where it's like mechanologist attack, those ones I remember looking are just mechanologist. They are not pirate mechanologist. So Dash IO, even Max potentially, I think get a big boost. Max specifically, there was a lot of people who were very disappointed with the armory deck, and it looked like it was meant to be very wrench focused. But with us getting, the cogs and the crankable stuff, as well as some of those attacks that are going to boost, potentially his wrenches or potentially Dash's old pistol,
wrenches are not
etc.
guns, by the way.
Yeah, but
I know they just say attacks, but wrench is not a gun. I just want to make sure people know that wrench is not a gun.
Yeah, wrench foo does not beat gun foo, but you can still throw a wrench into people's plans. So anyway, like that's the other piece for me, right? It's not just like what is missing from the set, but also what what stuff from the history, again, because this is an eternal format, so we're in this kind of like unique experience every time we get a new set, where it's like, okay, not just like what is coming in the new set, but what else gets revived, what else has that big impact. I really feel like Mechanologist is the least solved of the puzzle and will likely dip into its, you know, older cards more so than the other two heroes. Because yes, Marlin, there's going to be a red line one, and it's going to probably run a bunch of the older arrows and not the new harpoons or whatever, but there's still going to be a build of Marlin that does care about a lot of the new cards, right? Yeah. There's still going to be only Gravy Boons decks that care the majority about the new stuff. Will it play older generics or whatever? Absolutely, but it's going to be based on the Armory deck in this set. I am not convinced that is going to 100% be the case with the Mechanologists from this set. And I also think that the older Mechanologists are going to benefit quite a bit. That is my preemptive hot take.
Yeah. I completely agree that we've seen two cards that are specific, you know, outside of Puffin, that are specifically Pirate Mechanologist. Everything else is just Mechanologist. So Mech is getting a lot of help in general. My curiosities are Gravy Bones weapon. Is there one? Like, is it in the Armory deck? Is it an expansion slot thing, kind of like Hunter's Clave? Like, is there a thing? If not, sure. I could honestly see if Gravy Bones also had a weapon that it would be a little too good for limited, and so they kept it out of limited, right?
Sure.
That makes sense to me. The other thing that is the rest of Marlin's kit, because we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arrows total. That's not a lot. And if we're talking about limited, you probably need more than 6 arrows. And we've seen no common arrows, right? Like, and there were rumblings about arrows and go again that I was hearing. Now, I do wonder if that was Sarong that I was hearing rumblings of. Yeah, I'm very curious about what the rest of Marlin looks like. We already kind of get the idea of what Gravy Bones is going to look like for the most part. It's ally based. We kind of get the idea of what Puffin's doing with the cogs. And I feel like we only have half of Marlin. And so that other half is really what I'm wondering about. Anything else?
No, I think that about covers it for now.
Good enough then. We only have one listener question, so pretty easy one to get out of here. It's from Tiny Ten Hands. Let me double check the Discord because people tend to just leave shit in there. Nope, nobody did. Tiny Ten Hands asks, if I were to get into golf, what are some early pointers you would give me? I currently know nothing aside from the basic rules of the game. Okay. Golf is fucking hard and unforgiving and expensive. But it's also like one of those great feelings when you do something good at it. And also it's one of those things where you can honestly kind of just see your improvement over time. And that's one of the things I enjoy about it. Early pointers would be, don't think you'll be good at it right away. You won't. It's just not a thing. Accept the fact that you're going to suck. And that the only way to get better is to just play. Also, that once you kind of feel like you hit that first plateau, you know, let's say that you start playing this year, you play 10 rounds, you're playing somewhere in the the 110s or 100 to 110 range as a round of 18, which is average-ish for your casual golfer. But you hit a plateau where you just can't make improvement, you know, understand that it very well could be your equipment. And that's where expense starts to hit. Like, hard. So if you want to be better, it gets a little pay to win at times to kind of get you over the first plateau. But after that, it's all just a lot of practice. The other part is hitting the ball far just isn't that important. A lot of people are just like, I can't hit the ball. I can't hit a ball more than X yards. Okay. Is it in the fairway? Because that's where the short grass is. Yeah. Cool. Keep doing that. Eventually you'll find ways, to strike the ball better and make it go further. But if you can put the ball in the fairway consistently, great. Do that. It's fun. If you get to play from where you can see your ball and everybody else is, driving all over the house half acre looking for an errant shot, it's kind of fun to just sit there and watch them drive around like idiots. I am one of those people that drives around like an idiot because I tend to shank a lot of golf balls at times. Just gonna put that out there. But yeah, I mean, golf is, to me, it's rewarding. It's a stupid fucking game. I don't have any better way to put it. It's a stupid game. It's a stupid game that costs too much money. But I have fun, so I play it. Darick, do you know anything about golf? I don't even know if you know anything about golf.
Yeah, I used to play pretty regularly. I have not played since my bicep injury. And given that I also have the tear in the other elbow, it doesn't look like I'm going to get back on the greens anytime soon. But, I used to go with my dad. And then when I worked for Michigan Virtual, I used to play with some coworkers there. And, sometimes just like, it's just a nice thing to get outside. And usually when I play, I like to walk. Just because that's, it's not what I would describe as like a true workout, but it's just like, again, it's a nice way to get out and do something active and enjoy, a little bit of nature or whatever. And yeah, but I have not. So it's been, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since my last time because of the injury.
It's been 38 hours, but yeah, it's, like I said, I think it's just a good time. Early thing, if you're looking to pick up a set of clubs, go to a used sporting goods store. Don't buy like a beginner set off the rack. They're going to charge you a bunch of money for things that you're going to replace quickly if you keep playing. So just don't. Just go to, here we have Play It Again Sports. Whatever your used sporting equipment store is, they're likely going to have just a set of irons that are there for like $100 or less. Just play those as long as they're not in trash condition until you kind of get used to swinging clubs. And then just skip the the super intermediate clubs and go get fitted for real clubs if you decide you enjoy it. That's it. I really don't have much else.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Well, it looks like that we're pretty well done for tonight. Let's thank some patrons because we should. Our associate producers are Aladoris, Andy, Sindra, Ejor, Jacob, Quiet Goat, Salty Sea Cat, Sofsky, Zaris. Our executive producers are Blaze Storm, a member of the Patreon, Diana, Micaiah, Paxana, Sergeant Eastbjorn, Vintox, and Philip. And then our Chargers Chamber of Charcoal, we have Brandon, you're up. I believe that we're looking at sometime in June for you. Matt, thank you again for all of your support. The Jackal, thank you again for being an incredible guest, honestly, when you were on. And then Rich, Polish guy. We'll talk to you next week on the show. If you want to become a member of our Patreon, or become a patron of Flesh and Pod, I should say, you can go to patreon.com/fleshandpod. Link is in the show notes. There are some number of tiers. Fucking pick one. Pay some money. Any paid tier gets you in a FAP After Dark, which will be Wednesday, May 20th, 21st, at 9:30 CST. I put an announcement in the Discord, and I don't remember what I said. So I'm just going to go look. 9:30 Central Standard Time, 10:30 on the East. If you're in the US, otherwise some ungodly time if you're not. But if you are a paid member of the Patreon, come join us. Come hang out. It's a lot of fun. and we will have more to say about the current state of things, I'm sure. Especially if we get any new information in the meantime. But if you do need to contact the show for any reason, you can send us an email at fleshandpod@gmail.com. You can find us on BlueSky. Just search Flesh and Pod. Best thing to do, join the Discord. Links in the show notes. It's free. Just click and join. Don't have to be a member of anything. You can just join. Come hang out. Come talk shit. There's a lot of that going around. Darick, where can they find you?
Chuckling with Charmer in the Discord. Blue Sky. That's about it.
I really hate that channel.
Occupational therapy.
Occupational therapy. Yeah, there you go. There's the one. We haven't put anything on the bounty board in a while. They have to up that.
Oh yeah, we gotta do that.
Yep. There's probably some things that need to go into the bounty board.
Yeah.
I'll have to think through that. I'm gonna click on the Chuckles with Charmer channel one time. I'm gonna regret this, but I have it muted for a reason. The last one is okay, there are two here that are recent-ish. There's one from Charmer that says, when I had my bicep surgery, asked the doctor if I could do my own anesthesia. He said, go ahead, knock yourself out. And then Charlie put one in that has looks like a bagel counter at a deli that says, I'd like to buy a bagel with cream cheese. And the person says, sorry, we only take cash. I hate everything. I should never have clicked there. Oh well. Also, we'll be having a discussion about priority and how the flowchart works in the Discord, and probably also on FAP After Dark, because why not?
Because why not?
But yeah, man, I guess that's our show for this week. Any parting thoughts? Any Jerry Springer moments for you?
No. I mean, you are not the father, so.
I think that's Maury Povich.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. Well, we'll take it. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening, and we will talk to you next week. Bye.